All right, today I want to introduce you to this individual here. His name is John Hunt. Now, you might be asking yourself, who is John Hunt and why should I care? And those are perfectly legitimate questions. And the answer, is a bit shocking and might surprise you. John Hunt is a superhero. And the reason that you should care, well, unless you're like me and you just like discovering little backwater tributary channels on YouTube and laughing at the insane individuals who operate them, then you probably shouldn't care. But that's how I get my entertainment. I'm a little weird like that. Um, so if you're still with me, let's talk a little bit about this guy, John Hunt. John Hunt's claim to fame is that he got arrested for crossing the street. Now, you might wonder, well, how does that happen? He was even crossing the street at a posted crosswalk. So he wasn't even jaywalking or anything like that. Um, but yeah, he got arrested for it, and it's not even that he got arrested that has revealed his superpowers to us. It is what happened during the arrest and subsequent uh, there too. Um, so the story goes that John was driving his car down the road in Boulder City, and he runs a crosswalk on which a pedestrian was attempting to cross the road, and the pedestrian evidently has the right of way at that particular crosswalk. And it turned out that that pedestrian was an undercover police officer, and the police were doing a sting, trying to bring attention to uh, people running the crosswalks and not giving the right of way to pedestrians that are using them. And this made Mr. Hunt pretty angry. He gets a ticket, I want to say, for, somewhere between 200 and 300 bucks. And I think that kind of annoyed him a little. He felt like it was unfair, that it was, you know, it was a hit job by the cops. They were just, it was unethical. And so Mr. Hunt was going to protest. And the way that he decided that he was going to protest was by going back to that same crosswalk and crossing the street for 4 hours. He was just going to walk back and forth in the street for 4 hours using the crosswalk, doing the same thing that the police officer was doing, just to make a point, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what point he thought he was going to make, other than he was just going to tie up traffic on that particular section of road to to demonstrate that the police conducting their little sting operation was illegitimate in his mind. Who knows, right? But that's not really what's important. What's important is that Mr. Hunt is a superhero, at least in his own mind. So, what his superpower is, according to him, is that he can't easily forget things. He has this condition I forget what it's called, dipsplasia or something like that, where he sees thoughts in colors and symbols and things like that. And so it gives him really good ability to remember things. And what he remembers about his little interaction with the police is different than what the video the video recordings of the incident portray. So there's like not one video recording of his incident. There's multiple recordings. I believe three, to be exact. Two police camera coverages, body cam and dash cam, and then there's a local security camera that he was able to obtain the footage from. And long story short, he remembers the conversation between him and the officer going completely different than it apparently did based on the video camera footage. So and this happened back in 2016, right? So now he's he's claiming, it's not just now, he has been claiming since the beginning that they doctored the audio, that the police are doctoring the audio of his crosswalk arrest to make it more convincing, I guess, that he was breaking the law. I don't know why they would do that, but according to him, that's what they're doing. And he believes that they're not just doing it to him, they're doing it to all of us, right? And so, to me, his superpower really just comes across as a combination of mental disorders. And I'm no psychiatrist. I mean, I'm not a degreed psychologist or anything like that. I just play one on YouTube. But by my by my view, he has like a combination of high functioning autism, maybe like Asperger's, combined with mild obsessive compulsive disorder and perhaps a touch of narcissism, all rolled into one. And that's the end result, because this has been going on for years now, to the point where he took the video footage from all the different sources and overlapped them and sent them off to an audio forensic expert who found some anomalies in the audio, and that just confirmed his his notion that the conversation was not as he recalled it to be between him and the arresting officer, and had a video forensics people recreate the incident, because the footage is like really poor and grainy, but they did a 3D reenactment, like cartoon, like one of those legal things that you submit for evidence. All of this, he spent more than $150,000 fighting this, deposed, had held depositions of the police officer, of the Boulder City IT specialist, and all of this stuff and has never claimed that he wasn't guilty of anything, right? So all this was over him, I don't know, a misdemeanor charge maybe, or an infraction for him, protesting by crossing the street multiple times. But anyway, let's listen to a little bit of what Mr. Hunt has to say. Let's hear this in his own words.
Hello. My name is John Hunt, and I'm the Boulder City Crosswalk Protester. I'm here to talk to you about a serious problem in our society. Police have found a way to tamper with video evidence in a way that is very hard to detect and even harder to prove. They can take your recorded dialogue, slice it up, and mix and match it with dialogue from other recordings to create conversations and narratives that never happened. I know this because they did it to me.
Well, that is really impressive, isn't it? I mean, that's a real strong allegation, because what you're trying to say, John, is that police officers who have, years of on the force, careers, families to feed, retirement benefits to collect, are willing to engage in a conspiracy that is not just, on the low level, but at a very high level, to risk, all of that, their careers, their paychecks, their reputations, their retirement benefits, etc., just to frame you for crossing the street illegally. All right, a little minor infraction. So you really got to have some real good proof if you're going to make such an allegation. So let's hear that.
Hello. This is John Hunt once again.
This guy's
And that was the
made
opening to my
so
April
many
2019
videos,
video
and
entitled
I watched
Police
every
Are
one of them.
Falsifying Video
This is
Evidence.
real entertaining to me.
In that video, I presented proof of a criminal conspiracy to falsify evidence being perpetrated within the police department of Boulder City, a small town southeast of Las Vegas. However, my presentation was nearly an hour long, and few people watched it.
I watched it.
Some of the people who did watch it didn't understand it. No one bothered.
And that's a good point. I didn't understand it at first, and I kind of only really sort of understand it now, because it comes across as delusional, right? It's crazy stuff. You can look at it and you can kind of see, what he's saying, but it's it's the video is kind of like, it makes complete sense, and he goes, well, he says, watch the video and see if you can see how the audio doesn't match up with the video. Well, no, when I watch the video, I mean, the audio kind of does match up with the video. So that's the problem that you can't understand, is that he feels like his conversation with the officer makes more sense than the conversation that the video shows, but
to report or comment on what I had done, and my video quickly faded into obscurity. Because of my shortcomings as a video creator, one of the most important discoveries of our time, the existence of a fake police tape, was simply ignored.
And this guy has no shortcomings as a video creator. He's made really good videos. I mean, the content is entertaining, and it's just the whole idea is that there's some sort of vast conspiracy among police across the United States to fake their video recordings or audio or whatever, when everybody's got a camera on their hip. You never know when somebody else is listening or recording or whatever, how the amount of risk that they have to be going through is just ridiculous. But I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you, Mr. Hunt.
I'm here today to summarize my findings, to present the key points, and to present some new information about the conspiracy.
Oh, one other quick thing. Notice the shirt that he's got on. It's like a Batman comic book shirt. This guy's always wearing comic book hero shirts, whether it's a Mr. Freeze shirt or Batman or whatever. I really believe this guy envisions himself as a superhero
that I previously withheld. In June 2016, I was arrested in Boulder City for protesting a police enforcement activity, a crosswalk sting. If you're not familiar with what that is, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I thought it was an unfair way to give out tickets, and so I decided to. The way I decided to do this was simple. I would start crossing the street back and forth, in the same crosswalk the police were using to ticket people, an unlimited number of times. After I'd finished my third trip across, a policeman pulled up to me. This was Sergeant John Glenn.
So the little video that you just saw, that's his reenactment from the actual dash cam and body cam footage that he went out and had money paid for that in order to fight his case. And I think ultimately they just, they probably just got annoyed with it and dropped charges on this guy like years ago, but he just won't let it go. He either really believes this happened to him or he just wants to, get some attention for himself. I have no idea.
He said,
"Step over here. Step over here."
I asked, why? He said, because I told you to. I said, I refuse to.
Now notice that he says, because I told you to there. He's changed that on a couple of occasions, I know, because the first video, I'm pretty sure that he put out, he said that the police officer said, because I said so. I could be wrong about that. I'll go back and look in. If it's true, I'll put the snippet in there. But now he's saying, because I told you to. So that's different.
To comply. As soon as I said those words, he got out of his car and walked directly over to me. Then, without saying a word, he grabbed me by the arm and started dragging me down the sidewalk. From the time he left his car to the time he put his hands on me,
again.
He didn't say anything, because I told you to. I said, I refuse to comply. As soon as I said those words, he got out of his car and walked directly over to me. Then, without saying a word, he grabbed me by the arm.
Now notice which direction the police officer is pulling him. And this is the 3D animation that Mr. Hunt had recreated from the video. And there's a witness to all of this who saw this there. The witness could come forward and maybe he should try to figure out who that witness is. But the point being is he says the police officer starts dragging him down the sidewalk. You can see the sidewalk goes this direction and the police officer's pulling him in the direction of the car. Now the cop has said, "Step in front of my car." And John says, "Why?" And the police officer said, "Because I told you to." And John's response is, according to his recollection, "I refuse to comply." So the police officer starts dragging him down the sidewalk. Well, that doesn't match. This reenactment video does not match that dialogue that John claims is what happened, because the police officer's not dragging him down the sidewalk. Clearly, the police officer's trying to pull him in the direction of the police car here.
And started dragging me down the sidewalk. From the time he left his car
and
to the time...
he never drags him down the sidewalk. He immediately says, when John says, "I refuse to comply," he immediately wraps the guy's arms around behind his back and says, "Well, then put your hands behind your back then." So the dialogue that Mr. Hunt is claiming was said does not match that video either. If you really want to get into the nuts and bolts of things, if you really want to be anal retentive about all of this, I can't see that in...
time he put his hands on me, he didn't say anything. He never told me to turn around or put my hands behind my back. He gave me no chance to go peacefully. I was attacked without warning. But when I received the police video of that event, the dialogue of that interaction had been changed. The audio you're about to hear is fake.
"Step over here. Step over here."
So what I gather from that is this is the part where the police car is pulling up. It would seem to me that the police officer had the window rolled down, probably. You can't tell that from the video. But he's shouting at him as he passes by, "Step over here, step over here." right? And so you can't hear any response by John. So maybe John did ask why, at that point, but there's no recording of that. They're substantial distance apart. The police officer hasn't gotten out of his car yet.
Come here. Come here. There's something you don't understand? Okay, step to the front of my patrol car right now. All right. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
None of that happened.
So the conversation on the recording was, come here, come over here. And then and that didn't happen. And so then the officer said, is there something that you don't understand? And the response was no. And then it was, okay, in that case, put your hands behind your back. That's what the video says happened.
None of those words were said during that time. And I spent the last few years figuring out how to prove that to you. In October 2016, I uploaded a video to YouTube called Boulder City Police Are Falsifying Evidence. This video didn't really contain any proof of what I was alleging. But what it did contain was a recording of my memory of the arrest, and an explanation of how my memories differed from the fake police tape.
This is what I remember. John Glenn pulls up. He says, come over here, come over here. I ask, why? He says, because I told you to.
Okay, I was wrong about that, right? So he's consistent at least on what the response was, because I told you to. I thought it was because I said so. But anyway, I concede that at least his recounting is consistent.
Say, I refuse to comply. He walks across the parking lot, right up to me, doesn't say one word, grabs me by the arm, and he starts dragging me down the sidewalk.
At the time, these were just claims. A hypothesis with a public timestamp. What I didn't realize when I made that video was that many pieces of evidence would become available later, and they would all confirm my hypothesis. The first piece of evidence I discovered relates to a surveillance video of the event that was recovered from a local business. The camera captured key details of the incident, but it wasn't obvious at first how to synchronize the surveillance video with the fake arrest video. Nevertheless, I eventually figured it out. I was able to get the videos to play side by side by lining up certain details about the motion of the police car between the two videos. Once I did this, I found that the action caught on the surveillance camera didn't line up with the fake dialogue on the...
Just the sheer amount of work that this guy has gone through to try to prove this, would almost lead you to believe that, maybe it really did happen the way that he's recounting. But I just think it's a sincere form of obsessive compulsive disorder.
The arrest video.
So like this is one of the videos that he used to prove his innocence, or not even prove his innocence, just to prove that the audio recording was quote unquote faked. Look at the graininess, the lack of any substantial information that you can gather from it. Over here is halfway off the camera is where the incident was taking place. So, it's almost useless, really. Can't see anything.
If you couldn't quite make sense of that, don't worry.
We're
going to examine the footage in greater detail in just a little bit. This was the first independent confirmation of my theory, and it came 6 months after I posted my October 2016 YouTube video. The moment I first discovered this is documented in an email I sent to my attorney in April 2017. 3 months later, in July 2017, we received another police video of the incident, the Trooper Morris video. This video revealed additional details about the moments in question, from the perspective of a police car driving down the road.
Come here. Come here.
So this is the Trooper Morris dash cam video. This is like video number 3, right? You got the body cam footage from the arresting officer. You got that security camera footage that you can't make anything out of. And then you got this dash cam video, which, it could just be the upload resolution to YouTube or whatever. Maybe the actual video is a little bit more clear. But if this is what he has to go on, you can't really make out much of anything from this. This is that's pretty bad.
There's something you don't understand? Okay, step to the front of my patrol car right now. All right, turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Once again, don't worry if you couldn't understand the details of what you just saw. We're going to go back over it.
Don't worry about it, because he's going to...
I lined this video up with the first two, and everything matched. The videos all lined up with each other, but the fake audio vastly contradicted with the action we could see on the cameras. To check that my work was correct, I sent all 3 videos to the National Center for Media Forensics in Colorado to be independently synchronized. The NCMF is a federally supported research center that specializes in audio and video analysis. The researchers at this center routinely work with government agencies like the FBI, CIA, and DHS. The NCMF lined the videos up, and they got the same result I did. And they said there was no reason to think the videos were out of sync with each other. They're right. The videos aren't out of sync, but the audio on one of them is fake. I had both videos enhanced as much as I could, and then I sent the enhanced videos, along with the NCMF synchronization, to a 3D animation studio. The 3D reconstruction we created is intended as a visual guide to help you make sense of what you're seeing in the raw videos. I'm going to play that reconstruction.
Now, this guy's done so much to try to prove this. There's things in this video that he leaves out. Okay, one of the things that he did early on was he sent the audio off to an audio forensics guy, one of those internet forensics people, and there was some dead spaces in the audio, and he was claiming that that's where the audio had been snipped, cut and transferred around and repasted. They've used his own words that he said in different parts of the interaction later on when he was arrested and whatnot to create a dialogue that didn't happen, is his claim. And those little dead spots, prove, quote unquote, prove that that's what's going on. And I mean, the website that he used and the guy is defunct now. I went to that website and it doesn't exist anymore, and looked into it, and I just don't think the guy's actually providing those services anymore. So there's other things that this guy's done that he doesn't really go into detail in this video. And there's a lot of stuff that he's done, like the depositions of the John Glenn arresting police officer and the IT guy, I forget his name, I guess have probably been removed from YouTube by YouTube for community standards or maybe claims on part of the individuals that was violating their privacy or whatever. But there's been so much information that this guy's put up to try to justify his position, and he just keeps going and keeps going, and I don't think he'll ever stop on this. And I don't know what he hopes to gain out of it other than attention for himself, because the story is so far-fetched that it's just ridiculous.
Instruction for you now. See if you can start to notice how the action being portrayed doesn't line up with the fake dialogue.
Step over here. Step over here. Come here. Come here. There's something you don't understand? Okay, step to the front of my patrol car right now. All right. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Now, I look at that, and to me, that dialogue lines up perfectly. I don't understand. He says, well, can you see how it doesn't line up? No, let's watch it again and see how it does line up. It lines up, as far as I can tell, it makes complete sense.
See if you can start to notice how the action being portrayed doesn't line up with the fake dialogue.
No, I really can't. So he's driving by, the guy's walking over here on the left, the crosswalk's over here, the Pizza Hut's over here on the right. This is the parking lot. I believe that the police officer probably has his window down. This is the third time Mr. Hunt has crossed the street at this point. The cops, like, what the hell is this guy doing? He drives over, he's got his window down, and he shouts out his window, step over here, step over here.
Step over here. Step over here.
He parks. He opens the door. As he opens the door, he says, come here.
Come here.
He yells, come here again, and he's just standing there, like with his hands on his hips. Hey, come here. That lines up perfectly. The door shuts, right? So this is the situation. John Hunt and the bystander are looking at the police officer like, okay. He starts walking towards him.
You don't understand?
And he says, is there something you don't understand? To which John Hunt replies, no. In other words, there is nothing that I don't understand.
Okay, step to the front of my patrol car.
So the guy had said no. So the police officer's understanding is that the individual does understand what's going on. So he says, step in front of my patrol car. So he immediately starts jerking John Hunt in the direction of the patrol car. He's trying to get him out of the highway. He jerks him twice, and John Hunt says, I refuse to comply. In that case, turn around, put your hands behind your back. And now John Hunt is saying, step away from me. What does it, and here's the deal. This is what the police audio shows, right? John Hunt's audio or recollection of the conversation was different, but it doesn't matter. If the conversation was what John Hunt said, what he recalled, the situation wouldn't have been any different. John Hunt crossed the sidewalk 3 times. The police officer's trying to figure out what's going on. He arrests him. The only thing that would matter is if the police were actually doctoring the audio. But that doesn't make any sense. It's completely diluted. But in some way, Mr. Hunt wants us to believe that what you hear is not what actually was said.
Now I'm going to take you through a few of the details we used to construct that animation, so that you can watch the raw footage and understand it without any visual aids. The first thing you'll notice is the officer walking down from where his car is parked.
The ominous music.
After that, you'll notice that he leans over and grabs my arm. You can see this by the abrupt motion of his torso in the Morris video.
Yeah, I think that the forensics people he hired did a pretty damn good job at recreating what happened from that grainy, nearly undecipherable video footage.
After that, you can see that I've pulled my left arm backward in surprise. On the Morris video, you can see my elbow quickly travel behind my body.
I guess, if that's what you say. Sure.
Finally, it's very easy to see that the officer is pulling on my partially withdrawn arm just before he steps down onto the curb. Now I'll play the
Okay,
reconstruction for you, followed by the enhanced synchronization.
Come here. Come here.
Come here. Is there something you don't understand? No.
There's something you don't understand? Okay, step to the front of my patrol car right now. All right. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
I refuse to comply. The lights.
Come here.
Look at this.
Come here.
Useless.
There's something you don't understand? Okay, step to the front of my patrol car right now. All right. Turn around, put your hands behind your back. Come here. Come here. There's something you don't understand? Okay, step to the front of my patrol car right now. All right. Turn around, put your hands
I
behind your back.
refuse to comply.
And we'll see that one more time. Once again, see if you can focus on how the fake audio isn't lining up with the struggle at all.
There's something you don't understand? Okay, step to the front of my patrol car right now. All right. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
I think that the audio lines up perfectly with the video. I don't see any discontinuity there at all. None. Maybe the police officer was a little abrupt to arrest, a little quick, but the audio lines up perfectly. So if somebody manipulated the audio, they did a damn good job, dude. Kudos to that conspiratorial individual. You're a freaking audio and video expert of the highest order, and if you're working for a government entity, you should be working for Apple or Google, right? You should be getting paid, buddy. Whoever you are, man, get your paycheck, dude, because that is the best forgery I think I've ever seen.
There's something you don't understand? Okay, step to the front of my patrol car right now. All right. Turn around, put your hands behind your back.
In October 2016, I described the details of a moment that was covered up with fake audio. A moment that was captured on 2 separate video synchronizations, one of which I was not aware of, and the other of which I would not have access to for another 9 months after I created that video.
He walks across the parking lot, right up to me, doesn't say one word, grabs me by the arm, and he starts dragging me down the sidewalk.
So, you keep waiting on the smoking gun. I watch these videos just waiting on the smoking gun, and he had a few almost smoking guns that he presented early on, and this is like the 10th video that this guy's done on the exact same subject. The whole channel is just really about him getting screwed over, getting fake audio being dubbed over his video. But there never really is a smoking, quote unquote, smoking gun. It's just his delusional desire to create, to be right, it's like ego, man. It's his ego, his narcissism, and this dysplasia or whatever he's got that he claims that he's got, where he sees the thoughts in color and has a an inability to easily forget things. And then I just wanted to point out, what's with the oven mitt hanging on the wall there? I don't understand that either. But
right up to me, doesn't say one word, grabs me by the arm, and he starts dragging me down the sidewalk.
There's something you don't understand? Okay, step to the front of my patrol car right now. All right, turn around, put your hands behind your back. Step to the front of my patrol car right now. All right, turn around, put your hands behind your back.
You've probably noticed the sections of highlighted text that are overlaid on top of the reconstruction. In my April 2019 video, I described how the fake dialogue was constructed by illustrating where each piece of it was taken from in the original recording. Some viewers noted that my demonstrations for where each section of dialogue was taken from weren't as bulletproof as they could have been. And they're right. Better arguments exist for some of the points I was trying to make in that section of the video. I'm going to squeeze this a bit. This will increase the playback speed by about 14%. I'm going to add an equalizer. Let's see. All right, now if we play them together, they are much more similar. And if that's not convincing enough for you, we'll do this. They play over each other perfectly. So what I'm showing you shouldn't be possible, but it is, because this isn't real. This is a copy of this that's been transformed through some number of effects.
oh no, this reminds me of my youth when pastors, I grew up in a religious town, and these guys would come through doing these revivals, and it was the rock and roll music. This was back in the 80s. How the rock and roll music was corrupting our youth, and this backmasking, the whole backmasking, interspersed words in rock and roll lyrics backwards that your brain was supposed to be able to subliminally pick up on, right? Was a big deal back then. And for instance, if you play Another One Bites the Dust by Queen backwards, it says, "It's fun to smoke marijuana," but it sounds more like, and that's what you're supposed to hear. That's kind of what this guy, he's just hearing what he wants to hear in this and claiming what he wants to claim.
This next part is something I didn't want to do.
But he did it anyway.
Even as early as October 2016, I suspected that the officer who arrested me had to have been working with an accomplice to create the fake tapes.
He not only has to be working with an accomplice, the entire Boulder City Police Department would have to be corrupt in order for this conspiracy to take place. It would have to go all the way up to through the sergeants and the lieutenants and the major and the captain himself would have to know about this. This is not something that would just happen. A couple guys would conspire to doctor John Hunt's video for illegally crossing the street multiple times. And John is claiming that it permeates, and that, the reason that they did it to him was not to get him necessarily, but because they just do it all the time. right there, and he just happens to be one of them that got it done to him, that was able to figure it out, right? So the conspiracy's way deeper than John's personal case here. Fucking idiot, dude.
So here's the scenario we have. John Glenn is falsifying evidence, or he knows that someone else is doing it for him.
It seemed too subtle and too sophisticated of a crime for a man like that to have committed it all by himself. What I didn't know was that a likely suspect would reveal himself within a year. In July 2017, we received a second version of the fake arrest tape. But what I noticed right away...
So this is the part where he talks about the IT guy, and I can't remember the guy's name. He redacts all the information now, indicating that that this guy's complained of probably privacy-related issues or whatever. But yeah, he's, you know, the deposition that he refers to of this IT guy, you know, you'll see him talk about the people commenting on, you know, internet trolls commenting on the guy's mannerisms, his body language, and all this stuff. I watched that deposition. Dude, that guy was solid. You know, his answers were, he came across as an incredibly honest individual to me. He was very measured in his answers, very unbiased. You know, you can't watch the deposition now because unless it's been mirrored somewhere else, because again, it's been removed. But I saw it. The guy wasn't lying based on what I could tell. He didn't have any weird body movements or any body language that looked off or any mannerisms. That was all just a bunch of bullshit. You know, this whole thing is a bunch of bullshit.
Away was that this recording, which was identical in every way to the first one, was marked as having come from a different police car. The first version of the fake tape said Unit 277 in the top left corner of the screen. The second version said Unit 281. So in the middle of a lawsuit, in which it is being alleged that this specific recording is in fact fake, this police department gives us an identical version of the same recording, with a different unit number on it.
Mm-hmm.
We thought this was very suspicious.
And that is kind of weird, right? And I remember that in Officer John Glenn's deposition, there was a problem about this that, you know, was brought up at the Boulder City Police Department, and it caused a stir. There was, you know, the second video was released evidently without it going through proper channels, and it caused problems, you know. But the explanation was evidently reasonable. It was even reasonable to Mr. Hunt here, as he is about to say. But notice that he won't reveal what that reason was. He just says, well, it sounded like a perfectly plausible reason to me, but it led me to the real culprit, which was the IT guy, blah, blah, blah.
Pretty much everyone thought this was very suspicious. So the city needed a way to explain how this recording got a different unit number on it. Enter
public employee,
the city's IT expert.
This is where
he came up with an explanation for the two numbers that seemed
guy.
At least plausible.
Right, and he says it seemed
but
at
I
least
wasn't convinced.
plausible, but I wasn't convinced.
So I decided to take a closer look at this person. Here's
so then this is what, you know, and maybe this guy's got a little bit of paranoid schizophrenia as well, you know. So what are we up to? You got bipolar disorder, you know, obsessive compulsive disorder, narcissism, high functioning autism, and you know, and paranoia. He's just got a lot of weird shit going on, dude.
Deleted scene from the first version of my April 2019 video, where I talk about
public employee,
his qualifications as an IT expert.
Footage removed.
The reason this is important is because of something called the integrity check. This is a technological safeguard that's meant to ensure that a recording uploaded into the police database can't be edited.
The integrity check will go very in-depth on the video. It does so much as check the metadata on the video to make sure that nothing has been altered in the metadata. If any alterations have been made, anything's been attempted to be deleted or deleted, we're going to find out through the integrity check.
As the metadata processes, it interprets and verifies that the footage is authentic. If it is authentic, it will pass. If the credentials do not match, showing that it's been edited or altered in any way, it will fail.
Of course, the flaw in this system is that there's no way to be sure that the integrity check itself isn't being hacked. So when I received the second version of the recording I knew was fake, it came with a printout saying that it couldn't possibly have been edited. And the same system that said that it couldn't possibly have been edited also said that it came from a different police car. And
the explanation had something to do with the camera being in a different car. You know, the camera number being programmed into the camera, and one car having a malfunctioning camera. Therefore, they swapped it out with a different camera. And you know, I don't remember. It was something along those lines. You know, but it doesn't indicate that they hacked, you know, the entire audio conversation that we heard between John Hunt and Officer John Glenn.
the person who explained how this same recording came from a different police car just happened to be a
public employee
who was also in charge of maintaining all the police cameras in the city. Now, all of that together doesn't necessarily mean that
public employee
is the one who created the forgery and hacked the integrity check. But it does mean that he has all the access and all the that someone would need in order to do those things.
What
I'm gonna play
could
you
have
some clip.
possibly been redacted there? He has all the what would they have put? What would he have possibly redacted there?
The forgery and hacked the integrity check. But it does mean that he has all the access and all the
access and all the skills and capabilities. I don't know what you would have to redact there, but okay.
that someone would need in order to do those things. I'm going to play you some clips from the
public employee
deposition that will hopefully paint a better picture for you. And I'll try to let you decide what you think is happening.
The audience reacts. Right, this is the part where when he says the audience, he's talking about his little band of subscribers.
Have to love that Osh busted 3650.
Like anybody cares what anybody on YouTube in the comment section of YouTube has to say.
At 3856 you see he acknowledged he fucked up.
These are all, you know, cop haters, anarchists, sovereign citizens.
This was very interesting. I commend you for following this through. I noticed some very obvious signs of dishonesty in the deposition tape of the
public employee.
Eyes darting before an answer, looking up while thinking about what to say, hard swallows, slight flushing in cheeks as well as the nervous fidgeting in his chair after giving a response, a subconscious way of relieving tension. You already know what he's like.
So obviously you have a PhD here, a PhD in, you know, social interactions and body language, commenting as to how the guy in the deposition, the IT guy, was was fidgety and swallowing hard and all this crap. Dude, Do you really take that shit seriously? Come on, man.
About, but for me that was interesting to see, and his body language backs up your assessment.
That's basically the end of this particular video. Is there anything else of entertainment? You know, if you go to John Hunt's channel, you know, when I say he's got these disorders like narcissism, right? Here's the banner at the top of his page. His YouTube channel is called John Hunt, which is his name. That's, you know, that's not out of the ordinary, but to just have pictures of yourself doing different poses, like you are your only audience member, like you're the only, this, you know, I've always thought, you know, people that have narcissism like to see themselves, right? And they like to take pictures of themselves. You know, Jean-Claude Van Damme did a movie called Double Take or Double Dragon or some shit like that years ago, where he, you know, CGI'd himself in, so he was like his own co-star in the movie. And several actors have done that, you know, over time, and they usually come off as very narcissistic people, in my opinion. And so every time I see someone who, like, takes pictures of themselves, you know, in like different poses and stuff, like this guy here, to me that just comes across as narcissism. And then I see the right, yeah, every picture is of him, you know, his thumbnails are all of him being censored, and then in one video he claims that somebody bought a bunch of dislikes to dislike his videos, like someone would go out and spend money just to subvert his ability to get picked up by the YouTube algorithm. What else is in here that, yeah, there's really nothing good left here, man. The depositions were the best stuff, the early, but all of his videos are real kind of weird, man. Let's watch a little bit of this one here.
After his gag order was overturned by Judge Johnson, he recused himself from this case of the crosswalk protester.
Yeah, he gets a lot of usage out of this. It evidently got picked up by like the Boulder City local news there at one point. And he plays this clip over and over and over again.
The federal lawsuit filed by Stephen Stubbs is ongoing. We have additional materials on this case posted on our website.
So, George, you talked about this alleged police misconduct. It's alleged in this federal lawsuit. What's at the core of that?
Well, there were multiple police dash cams at the scene of this and recorded the arrest of this guy. But when the Boulder City Police Department submitted its video and audio, there was material that was taken out of that was recorded on the other. So they're thinking somebody edited this thing.
So,
Hello.
these are just the
My name is
same
John Hunt, and I'm the
videos
Boulder
over
City
and over and
Crosswalk
over again.
Protester. I'm here to talk to you about a serious problem in our society. Police have
To conduct a sting operation, one designed to ticket motorists who failed
and started dragging me down the sidewalk. As soon as on the recording, instead of the reality.
Tell me some old reasons I refuse to comply. I can step over to my car. I refuse to comply. So I take it.
Audio recording of the moment of my arrest.
All right, well, look, I mean, I guess you get the idea at this point. This guy really is delusional. He's making a claim that is a pretty harsh claim. If he could actually prove it, it'd be crazy, dude, that police are doctoring video, right? But as I said, it makes absolutely no sense. Number one, there's no solid evidence, no smoking gun, other than this guy's creating of a narrative to kind of match his story. And to believe the alternative, that he's correct, that the police are in fact faking audio on their recorded video footage, you'd have to believe that the entire police department was involved in a conspiracy that could potentially, if revealed, could potentially cost them their jobs, their reputations, their pensions, their careers, and it would send shockwaves through the entire legal system in the United States if there was even a shred of actual proof of this. There is none. He really has no proof. He has no superpower. It's baffling that he spent so many years pursuing this the way that he is, but mental illness is a terrible thing. It'll steal centuries of your, decades of your life. I've seen other people who were schizophrenic and who have chased the conspiracy of chemtrails and crop circles and all sorts of things for years and years and years. And this guy here, he needs help. His family, his father, who he references several times, really needs to help this guy, get this guy some medical help, because not enable, what he's done by helping him pursue this path. It's taken years and years and thousands, tens of thousands. I think at one point he said up to $150,000 of money. Maybe his family's wealthy. They just got money to burn. I don't know why this guy is so entitled. Listen, dude, you went out and crossed a crosswalk 3 times, annoyed a police officer. Your intention was to annoy traffic because you're mad. You got butthurt because you got a legitimate ticket and the cop arrested you, and that evidently got you even more butthurt, and you feel like you're so fucking entitled that you're going to create YouTube videos to besmirch the reputations of an entire law enforcement department in the city of Boulder. Dude, you're a fucking schmuck, okay? And you need to snap the fuck out of it. You're not entitled to anything. Nobody tried to frame you here. Even if the conversation went the way that you claimed that it did, you're still guilty, dude. You're still guilty. And, you got arrested for a legitimate reason, right? You're not, and it was a minor thing. So fucking suck it up, buttercup. Move on with your life, man. Quit being a douchebag. God. You're otherwise you're a real smart guy. You evidently got a lot of nice toys, right? Your daddy evidently must, fork out some big bucks for you. You got some computer skills, right? You've studied audio and video forensics now for the last 4 years. You could probably get a job with, I don't know, fucking the FBI or something, NSA, man. Put together a resume and do something productive with your fucking life, man. God, seriously, dude. Or, you could just keep making YouTube videos and I'll occasionally tune in and see how it's going for you. because it entertains the shit out of me. Probably nobody else, but I'm watching because you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, man. All right, dudes. That's all I got to say. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to try to edit this down to some sort of nugget, man. But this is like the best that I could come up with for content this week. So, all right, y'all have a good one. Cheers.